Galactic war stole my wife. 5 years later, she's naked and insatiable in my bed. The ghost in the rain. The thunder rolled across the Thessaran plains like distant artillery, and Dane Corvin barely looked up from his workbench. 6 years of living alone had taught him to ignore the storms, both the ones outside and the ones that raged in his memories. His calloused hands worked methodically on the broken harvester parts, muscle memory guiding movements that his mind had long stopped caring about. He'd been a combat medic once, pulling wounded soldiers from burning wreckage during the Andori conflict. Now he grew grain on a forgotten world, and the only thing he saved were machines. The whiskey bottle beside his tools remained half empty, a nightly ritual he'd perfected since the evacuation transports had lifted off without his wife aboard. Lissa. Her name still caught in his throat like shrapnel. 6 years since the convoy carrying refugees from the coastal settlements had vanished into Andori territory. 6 years of clinging to holographic images, her copper-tinted skin catching sunlight, auburn hair spilling over bare shoulders, emerald eyes bright with laughter. The curves of her body immortalized in frozen light, a ghost he couldn't bury. The crack of lightning made the power flicker. Dane cursed, setting down his tools as rain began hammering the metal roof with renewed fury. Then he heard it, a sound that didn't belong to the storm. A thud against his porch, followed by something scraping against wood. His hand found the pulse pistol he kept mounted under the bench, a habit from his military days that never faded. Moving through the darkened house, he approached the front door with the weapon raised. Another sound, weaker this time. Almost human. When Dane threw open the door, his heart simply stopped. A woman lay collapsed against his doorframe, completely naked, her skin slick with rain. Auburn hair plastered to her shoulders. And those eyes, those impossible emerald eyes, lifted to meet his with desperate recognition. Dane, she whispered through trembling lips, and the universe shattered around him. His wife had come home. The touch of remembrance. Dane's pistol clattered to the floor as he dropped to his knees, hands shaking as they reached for her. Lissa. God, is it really? His voice broke, years of grief and disbelief warring in his chest. She collapsed against him, skin fever warm despite the cold rain. It's me. I'm real. I'm here. Her fingers clutched at his shirt with desperate strength, and he could feel her entire body trembling, whether from cold, exhaustion, or emotion, he couldn't tell. He swept her into his arms, kicking the door shut behind them as he carried her inside. She weighed less than he remembered, but her grip around his neck was fierce, face buried against his shoulder. I found you, she whispered against his skin. After everything. I found you. Dane set her gently on the couch near the fireplace, grabbing blankets with frantic movements. His medical training screamed at him to check for injuries, hypothermia, shock, but all he could do was stare at her face, tracing features he'd mourned for 6 years. The same high cheekbones, the same full lips, the small beauty mark just below her collarbone that he'd kissed 1,000 times. But something was different. Her eyes held a wildness he'd never seen before, pupils dilated even in the firelight. Her breathing came quick and shallow, and when he wrapped the blanket around her shoulders, she caught his wrist with surprising speed. The Andori had me, she said, voice raw. They changed things. Enhanced things. Her fingers trembled against his pulse point. Every sensation is sharper now. Every touch feels like electricity. And the need, she closed her eyes, something between pain and pleasure crossing her features. The modifications they made, they created this hunger that won't stop. But it only responds to you. Only you. Dane's thumb traced her jawline, 6 years of longing condensed into that single touch. I don't care what they did to you. You're here. You're alive. Lissa's eyes opened, burning with intensity. Then touch me like you remember. Make me feel human again. Their lips met with 6 years of separation compressed into a single kiss, desperate, searching, alive. The breaking of walls. The blanket slipped from Lissa's shoulders as she pulled Dane closer, her mouth moving against his with a hunger that stole his breath. He could taste rain and salt and something uniquely her, a flavor memory had preserved perfectly. His hands found her waist, fingers rediscovering the curve of her hips, the soft warmth of her skin. I dreamed of this, she breathed between kisses, her hands working at his shirt buttons with trembling urgency. Every night in that cell. Every moment I thought I'd die. I held onto the memory of your touch. Dane's shirt fell away, and Lissa's palms pressed against his chest, tracing the scars he'd collected since she'd been gone. Her fingers mapped each one with tender precision before her lips followed, kissing the evidence of battles fought and survived. "You've been hurt," she whispered against his skin. "So have you." His hands cupped her face, tilting it up to meet his gaze. "But we're here now. Together." She guided his hands lower, over her collarbone, across the swell of her breasts where her heartbeat thundered beneath his palm. The modifications she'd mentioned were subtle. Her skin seemed to glow faintly in the firelight, radiating warmth that sank into his bones. But the body he traced was fundamentally hers, the dip of her waist, the flare of her hips, the familiar beauty mark he'd cherished. "I need you," Lissa gasped as his mouth found her neck, teeth grazing the sensitive spot below her ear that always made her shiver. 6 years, Dane. 6 years of wanting nothing but this. He lifted her easily, carrying her toward the bedroom as she wrapped herself around him, legs circling his waist. Their mouths never separated, trading kisses and broken promises and whispered devotion. When he laid her on the bed they'd once shared, she pulled him down with her, refusing to let even air come between them. "Love me," she pleaded, emerald eyes bright with unshed tears. "Love me until I forget everything but you." And he did, pouring 6 years of grief and hope and unbreakable love into every touch, every kiss, every breathless moment of their reunion. Dawn's confession. The first light of dawn crept through the bedroom window, painting Lissa's copper skin in shades of gold. She lay curled against Dane's chest, their legs tangled beneath rumpled sheets, her fingers tracing idle patterns across his ribcage. The storm had passed hours ago, leaving only the gentle sound of their breathing and the occasional creak of the old house settling. "Tell me everything," Dane whispered into her hair, his arm tightening around her waist. "I need to know what happened to you." Lissa was quiet for a long moment, her breath warm against his skin. The convoy was ambushed 3 days after leaving the Sara. The Andori took everyone to their research stations. They were experimenting with genetic modifications, trying to create infiltrators who could pass as human but gather intelligence through enhanced persuasion. Her voice trembled. "They altered our biology, heightened sensory perception, modified pheromone production. Most of the subjects went mad from the intensity of it." Dane's jaw clenched, but he kept his touch gentle, stroking her back in soothing circles. "How did you survive?" "I held on to you." She lifted her head, meeting his gaze with eyes that shimmered with tears. "Every time the modifications overwhelmed me, every time they tried to break my mind, I focused on memories of us. Your laugh. The way you'd kiss my shoulder while I made breakfast. How safe I felt in your arms." A tear slipped down her cheek. The enhancements bonded to those memories. "That's why the hunger only responds to you, my body imprinted on the one person I loved more than survival itself." He kissed the tear away, tasting salt and sorrow. "I never stopped looking for you. Even when they declared the convoy lost, I kept searching manifests, bribing information brokers, following every lead that went nowhere." Lissa's hand found the scar along his shoulder, a fresh wound poorly healed. "You fought. Rejoined the service 2 years after you vanished. Thought if I couldn't find you, I could at least make the Andori pay." His laugh was bitter. "Spent 3 years on the front lines before they discharged me. Medical retirement after I took shrapnel saving a squad pinned down." She pressed her lips to the scar, reverent and gentle. "My brave, foolish man." "You're a live man," he corrected, tilting her face up. "And you're my alive wife. Nothing else matters." Horizon of forever. The morning sun painted the room in warm amber as Lissa sat up, the sheet pooling around her waist. Dane watched her profile, memorizing the way light caught the auburn highlights in her hair, the elegant line of her neck, the strength in her shoulders that spoke of survival against impossible odds. "They'll come looking for me eventually," she said quietly. "The Andori don't let their experiments just walk away. When I escaped during the prison breakout, I killed 3 guards and stole a supply ship. They'll want me back, or they'll want me dead so I can't expose their program." Dane sat up beside her, his hand finding hers and lacing their fingers together. Then we prepare. I've still got contacts from my service days, people who owe me favors. We can set up perimeter sensors, reinforce the homestead, create escape routes. His thumb stroked across her knuckles. I didn't survive 6 years without you just to lose you again. Lissa turned to him, a smile breaking through her worry like sunrise through clouds. We're quite a pair, aren't we? A traumatized combat medic and a genetically modified refugee, hiding on the edge of civilized space. Sounds like the beginning of a great story. He pulled her close, kissing her forehead, her cheeks, finally her lips with tender devotion. We've both been changed by the war, Lissa. We're not the same people who said goodbye 6 years ago. But this, he pressed her hand against his heart, this hasn't changed. It never will. She melted into his embrace, her enhanced warmth seeping into his bones like a promise. Then we build something new. Something stronger than what we lost. We've survived the worst the galaxy could throw at us. What's a little threat of pursuit compared to that? They spent the morning making plans between kisses, mapping out defenses between moments of rediscovery, building a future from the ashes of their past. By the time they finally rose from the bed, dressed, and faced the day together, they both understood a fundamental truth. Love that survives war, captivity, and separation isn't fragile, it's forged steel. Dane stood at the kitchen window, watching Lissa walk barefoot through their garden, touching the herbs he'd planted years ago. She looked back at him with a radiant smile, and he knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. She was home. They were home. And nothing in the universe would tear them apart again. Lessons from the stars. True love is not weakened by time or distance, but tempered by survival into something unbreakable. The body may be changed by trauma, but the heart remembers who it was meant to belong to. Home is not a place on any map, but the sanctuary found in another's arms. The greatest victory is not won on battlefields, but in the courage to rebuild what was thought forever lost.